other things coming up, but man, doing well.
I see you got the D on your chest, man. I see that, man.
Man, that's home. That's home city.
Hey, you're right there. You're holding the fist up. You out here marching. You mask up, all right? What is purpose a fitting word for that picture? I mean, talk to me.
I've always had a activist side to me. And I think that people think, because they hadn't seen something that it didn't exist, it's not really true.
Okay. Hey, go on into that. What we talking about here?
Well, and people lean towards familiarity, where they get to know you in a certain way, and that's what they expect. They don't expect you to grow or change or express anything else. And me, I've always been a purpose-driven person. And I knew that my purpose would have to have full expression so that I could manifest kingdom reality. And for me, a lot of that does tie in to cultural promises and things that go back into the bloodline just as much as he's called me apostolically and prophetically and to preach and prophesy and pray and lay hands and do all that stuff, just as much. I believe that he's called me to the nations, more specifically, the nation of the Black community.
Should race have an effect on ministry? What is the purpose of the church as it pertains to society?
I think that is an imperative, not a question.
Okay.
Race does have an effect on ministry.
Come on. He said, man, take the shit out of there. the places, the cycles that my mind has gone because of the traumas, okay, being Black, okay, well then, okay, no, in the kingdom of God doesn't matter, we're in his image, and then, well, do they see that I'm Black, and do they looking at me a different way?
Anytime I see a police officer, I looked out the window the other day and I saw a cop and I got a little nervous, wondering if he saw me and if, he wanted to come in here, or if he would, all of those things are very real realities. They have a prevailing white culture in their ministry. And what they're really saying is assimilate, align, behave, and don't act too crazy, and we'll be good. That's what they're saying, but they're trying to say it in a nice way. And forgive me if I'm being too blatant now, because I just
brother, come on, bro. We gotta let Malcolm come on out of here. Man, so what's up, man? I just want to welcome everybody to Garage Talk. No, we're not in the garage, right? But Garage Talk represents a space, to talk about real life situations, the things that, we're all working on, whether it's business or just the journey you're on, right? Where you've been and what you're doing, and just talk about obviously current events and things that's going on. Just like in the garage, if you was in the garage talking. So it's a virtual garage right now. And I'm excited to have a good friend of mine, man. We met each other a while back, probably 2012.
Yeah,
like 12, around that Destiny time, right? Somewhere around that time, right? So we know a lot of the same people. Then I went to your 5 a.m. or was it 5:30 a.m.? I forgot.
It was definitely 5, but
5 o'clock, bro.
Some days maybe 5:30.
Yeah, we dragging, but hey, we make it, right? And that was a 5 a.m. prayer that you were having every Wednesday. And it's crazy because I literally lived like 4 blocks from that church at the time.
I remember that.
And so it was great, man. It was a great time. We had a good time in the spirit, obviously. And so, yeah, man, this is Dexter Sullivan in the house, man. So, man, how you feeling? What's up?
Man, thank you for having me on. I'm feeling great. It's a Saturday here, so lots of fun stuff going on in the city on Saturdays. I usually go to market in the morning. So get my day started there, get to rap with you, and then we're going to carry on. Got some other things coming up, but man, doing well.
I see you got the D on your chest, man. I see that, man.
Man, that's home. That's home. Home city.
Hey, I haven't been to Detroit before, man. I need to get out there, man.
Oh yeah, man. You got to check us out.
Yeah, I got to, especially with me. I've been following ET for like 8 years, man. Like when he first was like, some people have just got onto him the last few. But I was on him when he was like, and he ain't I noticed, but when he was like, when you can see the cord in the video, bro, like from them joints where it's like, and then just seeing him evolve and man, I've been with ET, man, following him. I mean, and I got the chance to meet him in person. I went to one of his conventions in Texas. And my wife has surprised me with a birthday gift to one of his conventions, VIP too. So yeah, so I got up in there and got to meet him and talk with him. So it was a great time meeting him, man. So yeah, y'all got some good folks in Detroit, man.
This is true.
Some rich history. Some rich history. Yeah. So all right, so we're gonna get into it. We're gonna start out very easy, very simple, and then we're gonna go a little deeper, right? So number one, I always ask everybody 5 questions, right? I take them through 5 questions, even though some of these questions are loaded, right? There's like 2-part in some of these questions, as you saw, I'm sure. But the first one's very simple. So the first question is, who are you? Where are you from?
That's a big one.
And your life journey, right?
Yeah. Who are you? That question is always just a massive question. And I interpret it as a question of discovery because I think that we're constantly discovering ourselves and hopefully on some level of evolution and becoming who it is that we are. And yeah, I would say, first and foremost, I am a brother and a son and a grandson and a nephew and a cousin.
Come on.
Huge family person. So that's a huge part of my life. And the central focus of why I do what I do is really for my family. But then I would say also I'm a creative, I'm a thinker, I'm a solutionist. I love to help people get to solutions for their problems. And I had the Lord really break that down to me some time ago because I never have been a person that was satisfied with the status quo and being a person that interacted with ministry in a professional space. A lot of times when people see you as a preacher, they peg you into a category of the good and the bad experiences that they've had. And then you become another one of those. And preaching is something that I do, but it's not really who I am.
Come on.
And I'm a people person. I love people. I love culture. I love all of that. So just a lover of people and culture, huge. And for me, I never wanted only to have one facet of my life expressed, through, whether it be ministry or business. I want to do all of it.
Yes.
And, so I would say open-minded person, very much an explorer of thought and wanting to learn from everybody and every circumstance. Those would be some of the things that make up me.
How old are you, Dex?
Oh,
come on, man. Now we're going deep. Now, bro.
31.
Wow. Bro, in October, right? October 1st, I'll be 39.
Wow. That's unbelievable because you do not look a bit of that at all.
So I'm the OG in here right now. So hey, listen, youngster. Let me tell you something, young blood. No.
Listen.
So, man, okay. So your life journey. So you were born in Detroit.
Born and raised here, yes.
Born and raised here. What was that like? What was being born and raised in Detroit? What did that look like? As a kid and everything.
Man, it was an amazing experience for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but we had just a beautiful childhood, very enriching. Detroit is 80% Black today, and it was even more so then. So the cultural dynamic of that is just an altogether different experience. We're experiencing gentrification at a high level right now. So we have not had white neighbors in Detroit in 50 or 60 years. And so now you're starting, the majority of people that live on my block are white. And it's a beautiful thing to see that diversity coming back. But that Detroit is not the Detroit that I grew up with. And a lot of the Blacks, my grandparents, their children, and then our generation my grandparents were first generation homeowners in the city of Detroit. And they've been living in their same house for 60 years. And so just a lot of pride and a lot of memories in those kinds of experiences. A lot of Blacks here held historic positions, being the first Blacks to do certain things. I don't know if you've ever heard of Kroger's. That's a department, a grocery chain.
Yeah.
And my grandmother worked for Kroger for like 43 years. My dad worked for them. And we have other family that still works there. And my grandmother, she was the first Black head checker for Kroger's. And back in the day, that was like a really big thing. The lady that's checking out the money is a Black lady. And, so lots of things like that in our Detroit experience. And just the history, Motown, Coleman Young, civil rights.
Yeah.
The first time that Dr. King ever gave I Have a Dream speech was here in Detroit on the street right here that I live on, just some blocks down that way. So it's an amazing place. In 1850, the Fugitive Slave Act was formed out of Washington, D.C., caused free men in America, free Blacks, to have to flee for their lives. And I live right off the river, Detroit River, and Blacks jumped in that river and swam to Canada, or they got in boats and boated across to maintain their freedom. So there's just a lot of amazing history here, a lot of great things to be a part of.
Wow, D-Town. Well, man, look, you got D-Town and you got T-Town on this thing, man. It's some history up through here right now, okay?
Talk about it.
Man, hey, I ain't even got to say it. All I got to say is Tulsa. We can, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to, normally on Photo Talk, I don't do that until really after the second question. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to the second question next, and then we're going to go into Photo Talk, because Photo Talk is going to kind of hit you, man. I ain't going to lie to you, man. Photo Talk is something that I started a few talks ago, and it's something that kind of dropped in me as I was doing Garage Talks, and I said, I got to do this Photo Talk, man. That's a good idea. So I'm not even going to tell you what it is. You're just going to experience it, and I'm just take you right into it.
That's cool.
All right. So let's go to number 2. All right. Number 2 is, what does education reform look like? It's a 2-part. And then how would you define entrepreneurship? Now, let's go with that first part first. What does education reform look like? I hear, a lot of players in the NBA are wearing it on the back of their jerseys. We've said it before in education, as a teacher, as a former teacher, and as a current teacher, and I'm a teacher now. What does that mean to you, education reform?
It means a lot of things. It's a loaded question.
Exactly.
To reform anything is to restructure it and to give it form, to give it frame, to give it organization. And I think that people are frustrated with the state of education in the country. And whenever you nationalize something, you make it very difficult to control standards, especially in a free society like America. It's just challenging to keep things consistent, especially when you have different tax brackets, economic disparities, and different things of that nature. That all affects us. I think that people want a quality education provided to their children. but I don't think that people always want to raise their children to obtain that quality education. And so I think that reforming education starts at the home. Are you willing to reform your home and the way that you raise your children so that they will have the competency and the mental fortitude and strength to interpret data and to understand cultural dynamics and learning and to be well versed? The child is so moldable between the ages of 0 and 4 is not funny. And we want to put the burden on education reform on our teachers and on our school systems when we never formed a child to receive education. And so the mental conscience of a child should be formed from that 0 to 4. And I mean, if we really want to look at it and all the money dynamics, maybe we look at paying parents to stay home and raise their children from 0 to 4 so that can happen. But we got to figure something out to make sure that the kids are ready. I'll
vote for Dexter for president off of that.
Our sponges and in that early phase, if we can get them, man, we would be winning.
I am so grateful that me and my wife taught. We were teachers before we were parents. And we're on the parent side of things now. And we have such a eye-opening and real experience when it comes to the bias of your kid, right? As teachers, you can fall into, and what their parents doing? They need to be teaching them more. They need to be more disciplined. And here I am, boy, baby girl, shoot, if she breathes loud, but I'm like, and it's just, she got me, bro. I'm just all the way wrapped up. So, the idea of a teacher telling me that my kid is not doing X, Y, Z, right? The bias in my mind says, no way, that's not possible, right? But we know it is. And I had a good example of that with my mom. My mom was good at knowing that the teacher was telling the truth, right? And there would be times I'd be like, man, you taking her side, And yeah, but then there was times where she knew that I wasn't lying about what I was saying. And she would go to the teacher and say, hey, I know my son is not lying about this. He wouldn't do that. So it's in parenthood is also about knowing your kid.
Absolutely.
And learning them, observing and knowing their behaviors. But it's hard to know your kids. And it kind of goes with what you were saying, paying parents to be at home, or moms at least, because if you're not at home with the kid, how do you know them to know to fend for them about certain things? And you're arguing or combating with this teacher when they ask you, oh, this is what they did in the class. But, it's very interesting that the things we're experiencing. Just yesterday, my wife said to me, do you think, and my baby girl is 21 months now, so she's on her way to 2 already, bro.
Wow.
And she was like, do you think when she cries and we give her a snack, are we creating, she said, I don't think I'm thinking too deep, but are we creating a dependency upon that food whenever things don't go her way? Or dependency on the TV or video when things don't go her way? And I said, man, that's a great question. And I said, that's actually a good train of thought. And I said, there's no better time right now than now for us to think like that. And let's address that. Let's address that today. Like right now, let's talk this out. What do you think we should do in terms of our response to when she does these things? Because right now, what we do is everything to the future, right? And so, we understand the foundation of her life and just instilling the faith. I tell people, they ask me, what's it like to be a parent, right? And I said, man, you get a scope, you get the experience now, what it feels like to be God.
Right.
And not in a bossy way, right? I get to be in charge, right? But in a way of, you have to show unconditional love to someone, and not only have to, but you're actually wanting to. And the more they mess up, right? The more in love you fall in love with them, right? The more the more that they irritate you, you're that more in love with them. It's crazy, man. And you're right, man. It does start at home, and having both parents and having this atmosphere. You know, one of the things we've been praying over her, and we still do, is like, God, give us the wisdom to create an atmosphere that harnesses her talents and purpose, right? That harnesses how she's made up. She's probably going to be a lot like me in terms of can't sit still, want to just move, right? And so with that, we don't want to put her in a thing where we say, girl, sit still. We want to build an atmosphere that she can move along as she wants to. Obviously, there's boundaries. Obviously, you can't just be walking everywhere, but you're free to go do this in this area. And, you know, we have number 2 coming in December, baby girl number 2. And so now it's like, you know, we're thinking already, how is she? So I'm touching the belly just to feel like, what energy am I feeling from this? God, give me wisdom, and what's her makeup, so I can begin to form this thing. As she's coming out, she comes right into it and get into her purpose, man, even at an early age, you know. So yeah, I agree with you on that. Education reform does start at home, man. That's huge.
And getting this kind of parenting culture to spread is pivotal, because the way you're talking and communicating, you know, the love for your child is clear, and your investment in her future is clear. And just being honest, a lot of parenting in Black communities especially, we don't see that. And so we need that culture of parenting to grow. I'm working on a project for a client right now in workforce development. We're preparing for the future of jobs in the mobility industry, and more particularly mobility being the movement of people and goods. And we're focused on automotive companies. So there's something like 115,000 jobs that will be provided over the next decade. They want those jobs to be filled with people of color, women, diversity quotient's high, and we need people that are being formed like what you're talking about. Because if you're not shaped to understand your options and then how to learn requisite to those options, you're not going to be able to step into opportunities. And so we have to do a better job of forming a person that is a whole person, wholly developed. Their psyche is strong, their ability to interpret data is strong, and their ability to interact socially is strong. And you're not going to really make it in the next 50 years if you don't have a strong intellect. Thinkers are going to be the ones that survive. People that know how to interpret data, that understand cultural shifts and dynamics, those are going to be the people that really thrive. And so we have to prepare our children for that.
What do you mean by, and when you talk about data, what do you mean by interpret data? Break down the whole data aspect.
So you ever heard the phrase follow the money?
Mm.
People are usually saying, when they say that statement, they're usually saying, if you can interpret what the financial structures in the nation or in a business are doing, you can understand kind of what the trend is going to be in the future, where you should invest, where you should hold your money, what you should buy, what you should sell. And so not just in money, but in information, there's a lot of things that are happening in the world today that the average person is not paying attention to. And they really should, because all of it is going to affect the way that your future is and the children's future that you're stewarding, what that's going to be like. And so understanding, you know, just kind of what is the cultural view on religious freedoms, and what is the current cultural view of economies and world economies. And, we're dealing with some very major issues in our world right now, with the pandemic and race relations and so many things that are,
man, they play a part in what's happening. It's interesting because if you're not intellectual, like you said, the intellect and the thinking and I'm going to just say creative, right? Creatively thinking and understanding and being able to see, like you said, what's happening, you won't be able to adapt to change, right? And during this time, I realized during the quarantine days and months, really, I've realized this whole year has been a quarantine, really. I realized that I have been creative. I've tried to the point of where I've started buying merchandise, flipping merchandise, right? I mean, all the way from like, bro, stuffed animals to video game consoles, different small pieces of furniture that people just want to get rid of, but I see the worth in it, and I'm able to get it and then sell it at its worth, right? And through that time, learning about what's hot and what's not, what's the thing that's a goer, and it's interesting that you have to just get creative and adapt to whatever situation's at hand, Yeah, that's what I've learned in this quarantine time as well, man. So I'm definitely with you on that, which takes me to my next question within number 2. How do you define entrepreneurship? This is something that I am personally learning each day what that even means and how I connect with that, because I know I connect with that. I've been told that I've been, people spoke over me in the spirit, and people hear me talk and they're like, I mean, you have an entrepreneur, and I'm hearing it, and I'm people saying I operate in it, and I'm still like, what is it, right? So more and more as I go each day, I'm learning that it's this creative thing, but then, that last part of entrepreneur, that ship part is a very important part to any word, right? You have relation, but then you have ship. You have partner, and then you have ship, right? And I think ship represents the space and grounds of an entrepreneur. And so my thing right now is I'm learning the space. How do I get into this space of entrepreneurship? Even though I operate like an entrepreneur mentally, how do I put myself in the space or the grounds of an entrepreneur to grow that thing up? So speak on that.
You done spoke on it. I don't think you need to say that. But yeah, entrepreneurship can take so many different paths. I think that it should always solve a problem. So if you're going to be in business and you're going to be in business for yourself, usually entrepreneurs are in business with someone or by themselves, then you got to be clear on what you're solving so that you can communicate that. And the more effective you are at solving it, the more that you'll be compensated for solving that problem. So understanding your value and what it is that you deliver is critical. I think that there's a lot of people that get into business wanting to do a lot of things. At the end of the day, it's got to solve a problem if it's going to be sustainable. And so being clear on what that problem is and how you solve it, and getting your efficiencies together, making it more effective as you go along, that's going to be the critical thing. And it can take so many shapes and forms. I think today there should be more entrepreneurs because there are more complex problems, and the communication of your problem solving skill is increasingly important. So you being able to find your target market and your audience to communicate what it is that you do, that becomes half the battle. And really
who you're targeting, what audience are you targeting?
Yeah, making sure that you know who that is and that they know who you are, and that there's a path there where you can connect with them. So there's a lot of ways to do it. You could be a direct seller where you sell right to the person that benefits from your products, whether that's a service or a product. And there's all kinds of people that make shoes are entrepreneurs, people that make skincare are entrepreneurs, people that are doctors and run their own practice. It's a form of entrepreneurship. People that run ministries or nonprofits and are doing things in other countries. It's a form of entrepreneurship. And there is money to be made in nonprofits. It's not all nonprofit. Some kind of profit is happening.
Right.
Understanding how that works is important.
So that's good stuff. So we're headed to Photo Talk, bro.
Let's go.
So I'm going to slide over one at a time. Okay, I'm gonna slide the first slide over to you. I'm gonna go ahead and send it to you on the inbox, and we're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna slide it to you. We're gonna see what you think.
I'm excited about it.
All right.
I've never done this.
You go and open it up, man.
Okay. Wow, look at this. I know these people in these pictures.
You know these people, right? Okay, so to the left over where it says childhood, okay? That first picture, you are in a picture with 3 guys, it looks like.
Yes.
How old were you out there?
Looking at that, I want to say I was 4, if not 5. And I say that because none of the ladies are in the picture. So they're probably all in the house with my sister who was just born. Yeah.
Who are those guys?
That's my dad. That's my uncle. And that is my granddaddy.
Man, granddaddy, he was swole over there. He swagged out, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's still in his mind. He's still there.
He still got it. He's like, man, look.
And he was probably just about to turn 60 in that picture because he's 85 now.
Wow.
And my granddad, he's always been a strong man. He's a lot lower in his weight now, but he's still strong.
What do they mean to you? What's so important about that picture? Those guys in your life. I mean, I see 3 black men.
Yeah.
How big is that to you?
Man, I think one of the biggest blessings in my life has been the gift of stability from the men in my life. And I don't say that to mean that we've had perfect days. So, pictures, sometimes they tell a lot of different stories. But the main consistent piece about the men in my life is no matter what storms they were going through or what we all were going through, we stayed present. And so, yeah, I'm extremely thankful. And I have a lot more understanding of their journey and just all of it,
As you become a man, right? It's interesting you say they weren't perfect, but they were present.
Yeah.
And that is a huge phrase right there. I think in a home, it requires not perfection, but presence. And I always say I learned so much more from my dad, more from his presence than I did from anything he said. Even though he says a lot of stuff, it was his presence that has given me a certain level of calmness. You know, there's a song, I don't know if you heard it, by Lecrae. The most recent one is called Deep End. And one of the lines he talks about, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm a grown man, like acting like a little kid because I never had a man to hold me through the storms, right? And or be there. You know, the presence is what's holding you, right? And you're seeing dad not be shook by anything, even though he might be within his outer appearance is, you know, I always hear my dad say, it's gonna be all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be all right. You know, and I think that's given me a certain stability, even in my life. Like, despite how, like, even right now during this year, okay, it's okay. You know, it's okay. Like, that's just my reality. And you know, Kobe Bryant passing away. Whew, it's okay, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. That was a hard blow, you know, and amongst other things that happened after that. So that's huge, man. 3 men in your life: your dad, your uncle, and your grandpa. Man, that's huge. That's big, man. Then the picture right below it, when you looking like, man, you looking like I'm just gonna call you. I'm gonna call you Malcolm Luther, or you know, something like that, because you're just missing the glasses, but you definitely got the Malcolm hat
like
on.
Harlem Nights. Harlem Nights.
Oh, you going Richard, and are you going Richard Pryor, Red Fox on Eddie Murphy in this joint? Yes. Okay. Man, you looking like you about to preach right there, brother. Got the overcoat. You got the Martin Luther King overcoat on, like, oh, you know.
Yeah, man. Dressing was always a big part of our lives. My grandmother, my grandfather, on my dad's side, they were extremely extravagant dressers. I mean, furs and silks, and
Come on.
I mean, they dressed to the nines. So
silky smooth.
It was a big thing for us to present well, and they bought us a lot of clothes as kids that shouldn't nobody have been buying, but they wanted us looking good. So,
hey man, there's one thing about our community, bro. Like, you ain't just gonna be looking any kind of way now.
No, and even to this day, you know, I'm not really a clothes person like that, but I still do invest in my wardrobe.
You put thought into what you put. Like, I'm the same way. I remember my mom told me when I was a kid, I was like 8 or 9, right? And she said, you are going to be tall, dark, and handsome. So she told me. And she said, so you got to dress nice because you're going to stand out. And so my mom told me this. And bro, even if I'm deciding to put on some basketball shorts and a shirt, I'm being specific about what I'm putting on with these pair of shorts, right? And it's the same with my daughter. Like, oh no, you know, there's got to be we got to make sure it's some intent into this thing, you know. So yeah, man, my mom was like that with me. You know, and speaking of moms, I'm assuming that's your mom right there. To the next picture right there, going to the right a little bit.
That's your mom. That is my mama.
The Queen Bee, boy.
Yes, that is her.
Man, talk about her.
Love that lady. Yeah, she's the first girlfriend, the first one that you get the heart to.
Come on.
Yeah.
Man, so you was a mama's boy.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. I was too.
I probably wouldn't say in a sense of dependency. She never wanted that. But
right.
I love my mom.
Yes, brother. Oh, what happened? We lost.
Teron, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, go ahead.
All good. Yeah, I was just saying I would do anything for my mom. Yeah. She always was that rock and that stabilizer in our family, and just kept things on an even keel, you know. She loved to host, and so everybody wanted to come to our house.
Yes.
And she's big on communication, so everybody want to talk to her, and you know, she has the listening ear. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same first girlfriend, man. Same thing, man. I talk to my mom about anything, bro. I come home from school and tell her about a crush I had, you know.
Right.
Anything. She'd be like schooling me, like, you know, just be confident and go talk to her, you know. I'm like, man, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. You know?
Absolutely.
I'm talking to you, mama. That's what's up, though. So this next picture is very interesting. You're with a group of boys. It looks like you were at some kind of academy. Talk about that picture right there.
That is Faith Christian Academy. That's my church school. I had gone to Detroit public schools prior to this, and this is in the second grade. And I had just started at this school. This is my first year there. And we were having an assembly. They always had us performing in assemblies. I mean, they were big. We did assemblies like every other month.
All right, that's what's up.
And just a way to really build in that achievement culture. And I had a lot of preparation that happened to me at that school. That school really set me up, because starting in the second grade, they would have me as the preacher for the day, or you know, the person giving the speeches. I mean, they would have us speaking at the state capitol and singing, you know, and just all kinds of things. They really pushed for us to have opportunities that developed us. And from an early age, they really, really pulled out of me that stage thing.
That presence. Yeah. I can see that, man, because you're always speaking. You're so good. Your stage presence. And can you hear me okay?
Yeah, man. I just didn't have nothing to say. That's a little uncomfortable to hear sometimes.
Oh no, I'm gonna say it. So I'm about to make you uncomfortable. Look, you have the stage presence, bro. You have the charisma. You have,
that's kind
you know, and it shows, because you know when you're at a school like that has that many assemblies, right? You're not afraid to be in front of people, right? And there's no stage fright. You know, you're confident. You know, you're like, hey, I'm here. I got something to say.
Yeah.
Even when I don't have something to say, I'm gonna come up with something. I got something. You know, and that speaks of you know, that training back then, man. It's crazy how we can look back and look at certain things that has built us for where we're at now. It's crazy.
Oh, true.
Yeah. So in this picture I sent you, you see we started at the child. Now we're working our way up to the man. Okay. And it's interesting that picture right there, where you're laying hands on someone right there and praying for them. There's a lot that comes to my mind when I look at that picture. There's a lot of deep things right there. And then you have obviously TD Jakes right there that you're standing next to, that guy. But like, speak to that picture, like what that means to you. Obviously you're perhaps somebody that's ministry focused, and but what does that mean right there to you?
Yeah, I would say, you know, looking at that picture, that's the rawest, honest form of me that you can get. During this time when this picture was taken, I was going through a pretty tough time personally. The Lord was requiring some things of me that were really challenging. And I was actually without a home at that time. I was homeless. And the Lord had me on a journey where I was shutting in at churches. And I had been living in that church for about a week. And then I ministered to the congregation that morning, and it was a powerful service. God really moved in a phenomenal way. And yeah, I mean, those are the moments along the way for me that kind of capsize the journey and help you to understand what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
That when things may not be going the way you want them to go, but you're endeavoring to like do the will of the Lord and try to please God, he blesses people through difficult places and through things that may be painful for you. He's still pressing the oil for somebody else. So for me, when I look at that, it's like I was being pressed and it wasn't feeling good to me, but it was the oil that somebody else needed.
Hey, come on.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I know TD Jakes has impacted you, just like he's impacted many of us from just watching him, listening to him, his way of telling stories, and just everything about him. He's big, man, in the impact that he's had across this earth, man. So speak about that. What is he to you? Speak briefly about that.
Wow. Bishop Jakes is a phenomenal human being. He is a standard, and I mean that with all of the weight possible, that he is the standard in ministry, not even just Black ministry, but he has set a standard for this Christian era and what is possible. He's just a phenomenally multifaceted individual, from the writing to the plays to the business to just everything. And many years ago, I had this witness in my heart that I would know him and that we would be in a relationship of some sort, not knowing that one day I would be a member at his church, and serving there, and had some really amazing opportunities to connect with him and get to know him during my time living in Dallas. And, he's always, even now living in Detroit, an extended pastor and somebody that I definitely appreciate deeply. But he is one that shows what is possible when you take chances.
Come on, take some chances. There's no high reward, as they say, with no high risk, right?
Facts, big facts.
The bigger you swing, the more you hit, right?
Absolutely.
Man, so in this photo, we have the child, the man, and I like to transition down to the purpose, right? And these are some thoughts I've had. That's why I put these on here myself, these phrases, the child, the man, and purpose, or the purpose. I'm going to say that picture where you're laying hands on that gentleman, and the purpose photo are, to me, a direct correlation, right? And, as you're laying hands on that person, and this is the space I'm in right now, it's also laying hands on a community, right? And, obviously, in ministry, you can pray in different ways, where whether you're putting a hand on the chest or, on the back, different things we do in terms of praying for people and stuff like that, or the hand or whatever case. But on this one, I think it's interesting because you have your hand on his head, right? And to me right now, it represents just attacking the trauma, right? The mental trauma that a lot of people, and we're going to get deeper in a second, a lot of people underestimate that the Black community deals with. I think the world underestimates it, the trauma. And I also think the church underestimates the trauma that we have went through mentally. It's a mental and systemic trauma, right? And I know we're gonna get deeper into that, but that picture right there, you're holding the fist up, you out here marching, you mask up, all right? What Is purpose a fitting word for that picture? I mean, talk to me.
I think so. I think so. For me, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning that purpose is not one faceted. So I would hate if at my funeral, when they're remembering me, they only described one side and one thing that I did. That would be really sad because God puts more in you than that. I've always had a activist side to me. And I think that people think, because they hadn't seen something that it didn't exist. It's not
Hey,
always true.
okay, hey, go on into that. What we talking about here?
Well, people like to be comfortable, and people lean towards familiarity where they get to know you in a certain way, and that's what they expect. They don't expect you to grow or change or express anything else. And for me, I'm a prophetic person, and in that I never wanted to be limited in my money. Now you may say that sounds strange, but I never
No,
wanted to be one of those prophets that was like, hosting conferences and doing
struggling.
online and asking people for seed offerings and just, I just didn't want to be that person. And so early in my ministry, I just decided, God, you're gonna have to provide for me, or I'm gonna go get a job. Like we're gonna have to work something out. And so there were years that God supernaturally provided for me, and He wanted me to understand that He could do that. And so that happened for at least 5 years, where the Lord just supernaturally provided for all of my needs.
Come on.
And then I began to get hungry. And the hunger that was developing was you got to move off of manna and then begin to till your ground. And so I wanted to get into a place where I was in my Canaan land and I was beginning to really take the land. And so in that, God had to shift me from that supernatural provision space to me being able to move into it. And that ties back into this. If you ain't got no money, you can't do what God has called you to do. So for me, I've always been a purpose-driven person. And I knew that my purpose would have to have full expression so that I could manifest kingdom reality. And for me, a lot of that does tie into cultural promises and things that go back into the bloodline and all of that. But I've always known that there was a civic responsibility to represent African-American populations and to advocate for them and to do things in that world. And so I've been working on that for about 10 years, and I've done most of it in private, and I've done some things. I don't always post everything that I do. I don't always, make a big deal out of it,
Right.
especially if it isn't time to do that. But we are working on some things now to go more public, sharing the work that we're doing, particularly for the African-American community. And for me, that is a prophetic promise and prophetic purpose. And that is something that I believe that God called me to do, from the foundations of the world. And just as much as He's called me apostolically and prophetically and to preach and prophesy and pray and lay hands and do all that stuff, just as much, I believe that He's called me to the nations, more specifically the nation of the Black community, and doing the Moses deliverance type work.
Boy, you speaking, you might as well be talking to me. We are so, I mean, we identical almost, seems like. I mean, I'm not as cool as you, but
get out of here.
but we got, but that those words like apostolic and prophetic. I mean, listen, in the community, I think the same thing. It's interesting what you said earlier in this, and you said a lot in just now. But like when you talked about just because people haven't seen that side of you doesn't mean that's you. And I've said in private to my wife many times, especially lately, that people want to see certain people that know you and are excited and on fire about what they know of you and about you, and even the things they see spiritually about you too, right? They want you to be that. People have things that they want you to be as they see you to be, not knowing that there's more that comes with you than that. And there was a word that God dropped in my heart. I was training at this basketball facility for this organization, and in the middle of a session, I'm training that person, a kid, right? And in the middle of the session, bro, it's almost like my stomach just dropped, and because I got kind of anxious for a second, because I was still feeling empty. And this is the thing that I've loved since I was a kid. I mean, this is what I know, right? And I was like empty, man. I was just like in the middle of the session, internally, like, God, what is happening to me right now? And I forced myself through that session, and I could not wait to get into the car to deal with this. And, during that time, my boss at that time was like, man, you're doing great. Keep doing what you're doing. You're excelling, and you are, I can see so many different things you can be. He was calling different things and in me too, mentor and all these things, and encourager and all these things, right? But it was in the confines of as a trainer, or as a instructor, basketball instructor, right? And I remember walking out. I remember one day, it took my wife, thank God for my wife, it took my wife, we were praying heavily during that time. It took God to speak to her. And I know it had to be God for her to tell me this, brother, because she's going to say, you need to leave your job. Well, hold on, what? Then this must be God. My wife telling me to leave. So I had to make a decision. I said, okay, I'm gonna put my 2 weeks in. I put my 2 weeks in. I let them know verbally. And in that moment, your job they're trying to do what's best for them, obviously, and they're trying to sway you, right? And well, what about your family? What about taking care of your home? And what about this and that? And it got me a little bit. I ain't gonna lie to you, it got me. And I walked out, right? I left and said, okay, well, okay. I played strong in the moment, but it really was getting me, right? I walked out, and as the door closed, as soon as that thing closed, boom, word dropped in me. He said, and it was a word from Proverbs that says, many are the plans of a man's hearts, but it's the Lord's counsel that stands, right? And I said, okay, I know that scripture that's over in 19th chapter 20. I know where it said, okay, that's cool. I know that's what's up. But then he spoke, and he said, man has his plans for you, but I have my plans for you. And in that moment, I said, okay, I'm leaving. And in that moment, I went on this journey of discovering more that comes with me than just that, right? Yes. The advocating, the voice, the Moses within me, along with the Abraham within me, right? And so when you said that really hit me strong about people don't even know the other things that come with you. They just see what they see, and that's fine, but that's what they see,
What they see.
And
some of it's not time yet.
Some of it's not time yet. There's an appointed time.
Thank God for the delays, Yeah, it's not always time for everything.
Man, you preaching to me. I guess this is for me. I don't know about nobody else, but this is for me today. So, okay, number 4. All right. So, or number 3. Sorry. Actually, no. I want to send you this other. Ooh. Okay, let's go to number 4, and I'm sending you the photo. Number 4. Should race have an effect on ministry? What is the purpose of the church as it pertains to society? These are things I've been searching out myself, and I want to know how you feel about that. Should race have an effect on ministry?
I disagree with the premise of the question.
Okay.
I think that is an imperative not a question.
Okay.
Race does have an effect on ministry.
Come on. He
It's
said,
not.
man, take the shit out of there.
It absolutely has an effect on ministry because a lot of times people don't want to admit that their culture prevails, and white people do a really bad job at this. They'll say stuff like, "Oh, we don't see color, we don't see race, we're all one," and all of that. That's a bunch of bull. That's not true. And a lot of times they have a prevailing white culture in their ministry. And what they're really saying is assimilate, align, behave, and don't act too crazy, and we'll be good. That's what they're saying, but they're trying to say it in a nice way. And forgive me if I'm being too blatant now, because I just
brother, come on, bro. We gotta let Malcolm come on out of here.
But usually, things that make people uncomfortable is not the color of your skin, it's the tenor of your voice, it's the volume that you use, it's the style of your delivery, and those are cultural things. So I've met white people that preach blacker than I do, and I've met black people that deliver whiter than white people. So it all comes down to cultural expression, and there are levels to that. So you have racial cultural expression, then you can have denominational or religious cultural expression. So a Methodist is going to preach different than a Baptist, and a Presbyterian different than a Word of Faith, and a Word of Faith different than a Pentecostal, and so on and so forth. It all comes down to our bias, and preconceived bias is held by everybody. And if we're not honest about the fact that we all come to the table with bias, we can never deal with race and racism and the levels of entrenchment that has in ministry. But I think race is beautiful, culture is beautiful, and whenever you tell somebody I don't see your race, that's even worse than
that's
anything you could say.
And you think you're right, and you think you're helping it, but it's making it worse. It's oh my God, okay.
Right.
So now you don't see me. Okay, fine.
Right, and a lot of times that comes from a lack of an ability to navigate difficult terrain. So it's a difficult thing to deal with somebody who doesn't think like you do or behave like you. That requires you to
come out of yourself. It challenges you to not think about you, right? It's interesting because we all see race. We all see it. I see white, I see black, I see it's a testament of my vision that God has blessed me. So I do see not colorblind, and I think you're right about I've been saying about how culture and ethnicity is different. There's a difference between the two, right? And a culture, you can have many different cultures. You can have a basketball culture. You can have a NFL culture. You can have a hip hop culture, or you can have a church culture, or a club culture, whatever, right? There's different cultures, but ethnicity is different than culture. And there is such a thing as culture of the ethnicity, right? And until we can get down and talk about those things, the culture behind each other's ethnicity, and being able to separate certain things that do not line up with elevating each other, then we got to be willing to dismiss those on every ethnicity as it pertains to us becoming one in God and reflecting Him. Race does play a big part in ministry. You're right. It's not a question. It's a statement. Race does have an effect in ministry, in business, in education, in sports, and everything. It plays a huge part. And man, that's big, man.
Right.
with that, what is the purpose of the church from your perspective as it pertains to society? This has been some challenging times, man. I must have to admit, personally for me, especially as it pertains to the church, it's been very conflicting, internally. And I don't want to say that nobody has gone through trauma in this time. The world has gone through some trauma, right, in this time. But I do want to stay with the Black community, because I think society-wise, we're experiencing a level of trauma based on what we're seeing and hearing. And in the church, we're experiencing a level of trauma that we're experiencing and seeing and hearing, right? And I'll speak for myself, and you tell me if you can relate to this. But the places, the cycles that my mind has gone because of the traumas, okay, being Black, okay, well then, okay, no, in the kingdom of God doesn't matter. We're in His image, and then well, do they see that I'm Black, and and they look at me a different way, or they minister to me a different way because of what I am, or all these different places. And then it goes to this place of like, okay, but then why is it only happening to our people at this magnitude? Is there some type of a chosen special blessing that you have upon us? I think about the faith. I think about Abraham and Moses and Noah and all these people, the Hall of Fame of faith, as we call it, right? And I think about the opposition they were up against, and how people in the Bible experienced this crazy encounter with God, right? Via the depth of the suffering or opposition that they're up against. And in that, I'm thinking like, man, is there an authentic faith? Is there a certain level of faith that the Black community is operating in, despite being whatever's being done to us? We still have this level of faith in God. And in that, are we not knowing the power that we're connecting with by that, and still kind of holding ourselves in the woe is me attitude? Once again, all these different cycles that my mind is going, I don't think our fellow or brothers and sisters who are not Black understand the mental cycles and perspectives that it takes us when we see certain things in the streets happen, right? And certain things that are said, and it's that to me is like traumatic. Go ahead, you can talk.
You said so much there, and I agree. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of processing. There's also the dynamic of recovering, because it's similar to getting in an argument. It's like once things are said, you can't unsay those things. And also, once someone is murdered, you can't bring them back. And, those are things that we have to live with. And I think that the Black community at large, nobody's prepared us to go through this, or there's no counseling that's being provided at a mass rate to help people process trauma. Those things are living with people. Anytime I see a police officer, I looked out the window the other day and I saw a cop, and I got a little nervous, wondering if he saw me, and if, he wanted to come in here, or if he would. All of those things are very real realities, and there are levels of trauma that just come with being Black. And I think that Black people really do, we have a strength about us because of the pressure. And there are spiritual patterns to it. I think that The reason that Black people are inherently a more spiritual people is because of the trauma and the things that we've been through. And it pushes you almost have to have a spirituality. And that's not every Black person's story. And there's some people that are into some really weird stuff spiritually that are Black. So, not saying that every person is, professing Jesus and living that way.
Well, and I'm speaking to the culture of the ethnicity. Not that doesn't make it everybody, but we have there's a culture within us that bleeds faith in God, right?
Right. And I do think that particular racial sect, African American Christian faith, is really.
Yeah, man. Well, man, I know you have a lot going on, and you have to get. I do want to just get to this last piece, which is, man, Dexter Sullivan Enterprises. What exactly is that, and how can people get to you in these different services and businesses that you have, and what they are? What is Dexter Sullivan Enterprises?
Yes, so Dexter Sullivan Enterprises is my collective of businesses. It is the place that everything that I do is housed. So Forerunner Consulting is our consulting agency, helping you do you well. We partner with businesses all over the country, helping them to really subsidize. Hold on one second. Yes. So Dexter Sullivan Enterprises is that company that houses all of the things that we do. And Forerunner Consulting is our solutions company where we partner with businesses all over the country, really helping them to become more efficient in practice.
When you partner with these businesses, they just go to the website and connect, or
all kinds of ways. So word of mouth is probably the largest way that we connect with others. And then, of course, they can visit us at the website, forerunnerconsulting.org, is a place where they can do that.
What do you help businesses do when they partner with you?
Absolutely. So one of the things primarily that we do is organizational management and planning. So whether that's helping a business to grow to scale, maybe they're wanting to take their business public, they've been doing things kind of in a mom and pop style, but they want to scale up and reach a larger target market. We'll work with them on a business plan that'll scale that business to be able to become more efficient. We also do leadership development, so working with teams, maybe the culture of the team needs to be strengthened. Maybe we need to really advance some of the development areas, whether that's in diversity, whether that's in team building, et cetera. So there's a lot of different ways.
And there's different fees based on what service you want.
Yes. So just about for any client, we'll do a free consultation, which will help us to evaluate the needs and present the options of things that we'd be willing to service with.
And is this from anybody from like any tier of business? Meaning, like, even if they're at home and they're starting something right now, and they just need it from any stage of their business.
Yeah, so we work with all sizes. I've worked for companies that are one person, up to people that they may have 100 employees. So yeah, the size is not a problem.
And hey, it was great talking with you. I know you got to get, and I'm so grateful that you decided to have some time with me and squeeze me in, man. Squeeze in Garage Talk, man. I'm going to try to stay consistent with this. Hope this thing continues to grow and get more dialogue, get more. My whole thing is to promote people and their business, dialogue, build relationships, and just hear about people's journeys, man. That's what I love. I'm always intrigued by people's journeys, man.
Well, you only let me share about one business. That's
I know.
a for-profit company.
Oh, okay.
3 other companies, Dexter Sullivan Ministries, which is the Christian ministry, travel and speak and do inspirational things. That website is dextersullivan.org. And then the Man-to-Man Project, that's our mentoring initiative we've been doing for over a decade. The mantomanproject.com.
Man-to-Man, bro. I was doing that with you, man.
Yes, man. You were shutting it down for us. I believe you were at Central High School.
I was at Central, bro.
Yeah, man. You were a game changer over there.
Man, I don't know, man. I was there. I forgot how long. I was there every Thursday. You know.
Yeah, man, that was phenomenal. And then more recently, we've just launched the Black Coalition, which stands for Black Legacy Advancement Coalition. And we are a policy think tank working to advance African-American live values and strengthen those communities. So,
do you develop public speaking? Sorry, do you develop public speaking?
I do some of that through Forerunner. So people that want to do speech coaching and grow their brand in that way, I do some of that.
All right. Well, I'm be connecting with you off camera for sure on some of those things, and just giving you different things that I'm working on, and just to see, you know, where I'm at and how to grow in skills. But I'm definitely connect with you on that, man.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, man. Well, Dexter Sullivan right here, man. You have Dexter Sullivan Enterprises, Facebook, right? You got Facebook. You have Instagram. You have his web link. Man, this is him, man. The king right here. King of Detroit, baby. Hey. Well, man, hey, man, I love you, man. I'll see you next time. We'll keep chopping it up, man. All right?
Yes, sir.
All right, peace, man.
All right, brother.